Today we are going to start to see algebraic division. Remember, division is the opposite than multiplication. So some of the steps of division will be like the opposite of multiplication steps. So we need to put attention to it because you can get a little confused sometimes. But if you pay attention, it will be an easy task to do. On algebraic division, the rule for exponents, different than when multiplying, the rule of exponents in division says that we are going to subtract the powers on the same variables. Remember, variables are letters. So in case of division, we are subtracting the powers. On multiplication, if we remember, we need to add them. So here on division, we are going to subtract the powers. Which powers are we going to subtract? The general rule tells us that from the numerator, we are going to subtract the denominator if they have the same variables. We are going to use this specific rule for exponents. It says here a little note. It says, if our final power of a variable is a negative one, we write it positive in the denominator. So the general rule says to us that we are going to subtract from the numerator the denominator, but if the final answer is a negative one, we are putting that specific variable in the denominator as a positive one. So for the sign rule, it's the same like in multiplication. That is the same. We see if we got the same signs, our answer is going to be positive. That means if we got positive between positive, negative divided by negative, we are going to get a positive one. And if the signs are different, that means positive and negative or negative and positive, we are going to get negative results. So that's the general rule for signs in division. So today we are starting with the simple ones. We are starting to see monomial divided by monomial. Here I put it like 3 simple steps that we need to follow to do algebraic division of monomials. The first step is to use the sign rule for division. That means that we are going to see if our final answer is positive or negative depending on the signs. Then step 2, it's to divide the coefficients. That means the numbers. Remember, we need to simplify when possible. That applies for fractions. When we can simplify a fraction, remember, to be correct, it must be simplified. And finally, we are going to subtract the powers. And as the note on the top part, it says they will stay where they have a bigger value, but no negative powers in the final answer. So we will see some examples like to have it in mind. It will be very simple. But these are the 3 simple steps we need to follow to do monomial by monomial division. Let's see some examples. So our first example is the one that it's on the board, 9x to the 5th divided by minus 3x squared. So we will need to do these simple steps. The first step, it tells us that we need to look at the sign rule. In this case, it's positive divided by negative, so our final answer is going to be negative 1. In this case, it says to divide the coefficients. 9 divided by 3, it's a whole number, that is 3. Then we are putting the variables, in this case x, and the rule for division in exponents, it says we need to subtract from the numerator, we are going to subtract the denominator. So the final answer is going to be minus 3x cubed. And this will be the simple process for dividing 2 numbers or 2 algebraic expressions that are monomials. Let's see some other examples. So let's see, in this second example, the steps are the same. The first step, it says to use the sign rule for division. So in this case, negative divided by negative, it's a positive one. So our answer is going to be a positive one. In this case, 28 divided by 2, it's 14. Then the letters, it will be x, y, and z. In this case, we remember the rule. It says to us we need to subtract from the numerator the denominator. In this case for x we have a number 1 that is not written. Then in the second one it's going to be 3 minus 2, and in c it will be 8 minus 8. So in this case it's going to be something like 14 x to the fourth, y to the 1, and c to the 0. We don't write c to the 0, we don't write the number 1, so our final answer is going to be only 14 x to the fourth, y. Remember, I know that it's a positive one, but because it's the first one, we don't need to put the plus sign. So this is going to be our correct and final answer. Let's see other example. So in the next example, we have something like this. It's very similar to the last one, but in this case, 5 it's smallest number than 25. So our final answer is going to be a fraction. So in this case, the first step is to follow the sign rule. Positive divided by positive, it will stay positive. Remember, we don't need to put it. Then it will be 5 and 25. Both of them are divided by 5. So we can simplify it dividing by 5. So it will be 1 over 5, or 1/5. Then we are putting the letters, so we will start with letter A. It will be 5 minus 3. Then letter B, it's going to be 2 minus 1. And letter C, that it's going to be 7 minus 9. So in this case, we need to continue, and it's going to be 1 over 5 a squared, v c to the minus 2. Remember, we have here as a note, we cannot have negative powers, so we will need to put it in the denominator. So in this case, it's going to be a squared v over 5z squared, and that is going to be our final answer. Let's see another form of doing it. In this case, we can do it also on a simple step. We can put it like the little line for division. Then we can see that both numbers are going to be divided by 5. So it's going to be 5 on the bottom part, only 1 on the top part. Then from A it's bigger on the top part because it's 5. 5 minus 3 it's 2, so it will be a squared. For B, it's also bigger on the top part or in the numerator because it's 2 and 1, so it will be only B on the top part. And in the case of C, it's bigger on the bottom part, so we can left it on the bottom part. 9 minus 7, it's 2. Then we can eliminate this number 1. We don't need it. So the final answer, it's going to be this one. That you see that it's the same one. So it's up to you. You can do it with the first process, that it's first use the sign rule, then divide the coefficient, then subtract the powers, and then if we have a negative one, we are going to put it on the denominator. And we can do it on a simple step that it's like all the steps together, dividing the numbers, then putting the letters when they have the bigger value, and doing the subtraction of powers, and it will be the same process like the other one. So it's your decision to use this process or this process. I prefer to use this one, but it's up to you. Let's see another example. So let's see this one. What happens when we have fractions? It's the same process. We don't need to make an extra step. It's the same process. The first one is we need to look at the sign rule. In this case, positive divided by negative, it's going to be a negative one. Then we need to do the division. In this case, we need to divide 9 halves divided by 3/4. So this topic, we have seen it. We have seen how to divide fractions. So remember, one process is that we can flip this one. So we can put it like 9/2 multiplied by 4/3. We can simplify before multiplying. So number 9, we can put it like 3 multiplied by 3. And number 4, we can put it like 2 multiplied by 2. So we can simplify this 3 with this 3, this 2 with this 2. So our final answer is going to be only 6/1, that is 6. So in this case, it's going to be 6. Then we are going to do 5 minus 3. Y, it's going to be 8 minus 5. So it's going to be our final answer, minus 6x squared y cubed. And this is going to be the final answer for this specific division. So if we got fractions, it's the same process. The first one is to use the sign rule. Then we are going to divide the coefficient. In this case, we are going to use fraction division. And then we are going to subtract the powers. So let's see another example. So in the next one, we have this specific one. So we need to do the same. The first process is to do the sign rule. So in this case, positive divided by negative, it's going to be a -1. Then we are going to use the division of coefficients. So in this case, we can simplify it, dividing by 2. So it will be 1/9. Then we can use the power subtraction. So it's going to be -1/9 of a to the -1, b to the 4th, and c to the 1. So in this case, we are going to need to put it like -1/9 of a, and in the top part it's going to be b4 c. So the final answer is going to be minus b to the 4th c over 9a. So this is one process that we can make it, but the other process, remember, maybe we can do it on a simple step. So let's see. The first thing is that we are going to put the line of the fraction. Here it's going to be a -1 because it's positive divided by negative. Then 2/18, it's going to be only 9 on the bottom part. Then we are going to use the letters. So a, it's bigger on the bottom part than on the denominator because it has 6. So it will be 6 minus 5. It's going to be only 1 in the denominator. Then on the next one is 7 minus 3. So it's going to be b to the 4th on the top part. And c is also bigger on the top part. 5 minus 4, it's only 1. So it will be something like this. And if you see this answer, it's the same like this answer. So it's up to you. You can do it step by step, or you can do all the three steps together. Let's see another example. So in the next one, it's a similar one. When we have fractions, remember, it doesn't change very much. So we apply the sign rule, negative divided by negative, it's positive. Then we are going to use fraction division. So we have 27/4 divided by 3/5. So we can write it as a multiplication if we flip it. So we can flip it and put it like a 27, that it's 3 multiplied by 3 multiplied by 3/4, that it's 2 multiplied by 2, and we are putting multiplied by 5 over 3. So in this case, 3 and 3, we can eliminate it. So it's going to be 4 on the bottom part, and 9 multiplied by 5, it's going to be 45. So our final answer is going to be 45 over 4. Then we are going to do the letter subtraction. So it's going to be 5 minus 7, then 4 minus 2, or that it's going to be 3 minus 1. So the final answer is going to be 45 quarters of p minus 2 q to the 2 r to the 2. So in this case, remember, we cannot have like negative powers, so it's going to be 45 q squared r squared over 4p squared, and this is going to be the final answer. Remember, we can do it also on a simple step. We can do it like we know that it's a fraction, negative and negative, it's going to be a positive one. So then we are going to do the fraction division. We got that it's going to be 45 as numerator, 4 as a denominator. Then we are going to use the letters. So in this case, p, it's bigger in the denominator, so it's going to be on the denominator. 7 minus 5, it's 2. Q, it's bigger on the numerator, so it will be on the numerator. 4 minus 2, it's 2. And r, it's also bigger on the numerator, so it's going to be on the top part. 3 minus 1, it's going to be 2. And see that this answer is the same like this. So it's up to you to do this process, or we can do it on a simple step. Let's see some other example. So let's see two last examples when we have letters as exponents. Don't worry, it's the same process, but maybe some of you can get confused. So let's see. The first part is that we are going to use the sign rule. So divided negative by positive, it's going to be a negative answer. Then 9 and 81, we can divide it by 9. So we are going to get 1 on the top part, 9 on the bottom part. Then we are going to use the letters, so it's going to be a minus 5 minus a plus 2, and then y, that it's going to be b plus 3 minus 5 minus b. So in this case, it's going to be minus 1, 9. X, it's going to be a minus 5. Remember, this minus, it will change the signs of the two of them, so it's going to be minus a minus 2. In the case of y, it's going to be b plus 3 minus 5 plus b. So in this case, a minus a, we can eliminate it, so it's going to be 1, 9 of x to the minus 7 y to the 2v minus 2. So in this case, we cannot have this negative one, so we can put it like a minus. In the top part, it's going to be y to the 2v minus 2 over 9x to the 7. And this is going to be our final answer of this process. So in this case, it's the same process. Use the sign rule, then divide the coefficients, then subtract the powers. Only remember, the minus sign will change all the signs after that minus sign. So that's a very important stuff you need to remember. So we are going to do only another specific example, and then you are going to do the activity. Let's see the last example. So in the last example is something like this. but remember the steps are the same. We need to use the sign rule for division. So in this case, positive and positive, it's going to be a positive answer. Then we need to divide the coefficient. So in this case, it's going to be 25 halves divided by 5/3. So we can flip this one. So we can put it like a 5 multiplied by 5 halves multiplied by 3/5. So we can simplify 1 5 with 1 5, so it's going to be 15 halves. So in this case, it's going to be 15 halves. Then we will have a to the 2x plus 3 minus 2 minus x, and we are going to have b to the 3y minus 1 minus 2y plus 5. So in this case, it's going to be 15 halves of a to the 2x plus 3. Remember, the minus sign will change the sign of two of them, so it's going to be minus 2 plus x. Then it's going to be b to the 3y minus 1, then minus 2y minus 2y minus 5. So it's going to be 15 halves of a to the 3x plus 1, and b that it's going to be to the y minus 6. And this is going to be our final and simplified answer. 15 halves of a to the 3x plus 1, b to the y minus 6. So then you can do now activity number 1, that it's monomial by monomial division. Thanks to you, and we will see you on the next topic.